Liz here, coming to another video, and now this one is another book review. So this one is actually called 9 Month Contract, and it is the first book in the Mountain Men series by Amy Daws, and it just also so happens to be my first book ever that I've read by Amy Daws also. So this book is actually Trista and Wyatt's story, and so in this novel, it is about Wyatt, who decides he thinks he wants to be a single dad, and he decides to go the surrogacy route, and he ends up at first signing up for an agency, and that agency, unfortunately, they don't seem to have any good matches for him. So then it ends up that his niece, Everly, decides she's going to take matters into her own hands, and she's going to try to find a surrogate for her uncle herself. So as well, this series, Mountain Men series by Amy Daws, it actually is about 4 brothers with Austin Fletcher. There is Max, who's the oldest, and then the next youngest is Wyatt, and then the next youngest are Calder, and I'm trying to remember the other brother's name, but anyways, so the 4 Fletcher brothers, they live in, not too far away from each other. However, Max lives in Boulder, Colorado with his daughter Everly and his son Ethan and his wife Cozy, and now the other 3 Fletcher brothers, they live on the mountaintop. And it's in an area where Wyatt had bought the land and decided he would build on it and, have all 3 houses close together, and he wanted to make sure they were sustainable. So now, when you think about it too, Wyatt, he thought he'd have, he thought he didn't really want, the wife, or he didn't want, like, another person to raise the baby with, and that kind of thing. But, how can this go wrong, right? A single guy, trying to raise a baby and also have a baby with a surrogate. Now, what do you think could happen? What could go wrong? Well, as you may suspect, his niece Everly ends up finding a successful person that would be his surrogate. But the only thing is that Wyatt finds Trista super attractive, and he ends up falling for her. Now, now Trista as well, she never thought that she wanted to actually have a baby herself and keep it. And she also didn't think she wanted a relationship. She had grown up with a bad, relationship with her parents, and she was never close with her family growing up. And, when it came to Wyatt, he had actually had a good relationship with his parents growing up, and also too, he had a good relationship with his siblings. However, he didn't think he wanted anything serious. He thought that he could just, have friends with benefits, or, just play the field. But he wanted to raise a baby, and he ended up having that come to light when his dad had passed away, and he wanted to have a legacy to bring forward, that he felt like the life he'd been living, it wasn't necessarily what he wanted, that he wanted more out of life. So fast forward a little bit, and he's been with a surrogate agency, and every single surrogate that they throw out there to him, he declines them, or he doesn't like them when he meets them. It just doesn't work. It doesn't click. So his niece Everly decides she's going to take things into her own hands and try to find a woman to have her uncle's baby. So now, also too, and now throw into the mix Trista, who is as the surrogacy company says, she's too fat for their liking to be a surrogate, and like she, as per the surrogacy firm and the surrogacy company, they say you have to be a lot thinner and everything, and they declined her, said that, they don't want her for being a surrogate to have the babies for the people that need to have a baby. Now, as Everly had been, as Everly had heard about where her uncle had gone to, which surrogacy company he went to. She decides she's going to check out the area and see what they're like. And, so she ends up seeing for herself what this company's like. And as she's there, she ends up running into Trista, who has been told that she's not good enough for the company. And she gets talking to Everly gets talking to Trista, and as Trista's leaving, Everly tries to catch her and says, I really think that I can make this work, and I'm trying to find a woman to have a baby for my uncle, and and I think you could be it. And they get talking, and she ends up filling out the forms, and she ends up so it ends up as well that Everly decides she's going to set up a dinner for her uncle and Trista to ensure they can meet and see if they both like each other. And sure enough, both Wyatt and Trista do like each other, and they decide they're going to go ahead with everything, but they want to write up a contract. And so they end up meeting with a lawyer and finalizing all the things in regards to the contract. But of course, as push comes to shove, as they go along farther in the pregnancy, their relationship ends up being surprising for both of them in more ways than one. And sometimes when you end up in one relationship, it ends up becoming more than you ever expected. And I just thought this was a really great read, and I'm now really excited to read more of Amy Daws' novels. So the other books in this series are, one of them is The 7-Year Itch. The other two books in this series are Last on the List and The Honeymoon Phase. I'm really looking forward to reading these other books and seeing all the other sides to the other 3 Fletcher brothers that I didn't get to see in this novel, and also seeing what their stories have in store for them. So I definitely would suggest you check out Amy Daws' novels, whether it be this one or another book by her. And let me know in the comments if you've read any of her books also, and if you have, what you thought of them. I really enjoyed this read. I thought it was really lighthearted, but also kind of heavy in spots too, but it was more it was more of a, push forward, and when push comes to shove, what's going to happen and what's good for you in the long run. And, I would highly recommend you check out this book. It was definitely a great read. I'd probably give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, take care. Bye, guys.